Hi, Nick. Here with Erin, local pocket expert on the subject of pockets. Would you mind introducing yourself and what made you first interested in pockets?
Yes, hi, my name is Erin. I became interested in pockets because I just like fashion in general, and I think that thinking about how design shapes our lives and our choices and our circumstances I think that it's just really interesting and compelling to think about the ways that design impacts our lives and in what ways that we don't really necessarily notice off the bat that it can shape our society and our interactions with the world.
So, what you would argue is that while pockets may seem innocuous, they're tied into systemic issues?
Yes, absolutely, they are. Pockets are really about who has the privacy and the right to privacy to keep their things on their person. And privacy is obviously like a huge issue for women's rights. I mean, the Roe versus Wade Supreme Court case was actually based on the premise of privacy, like originally. So women's privacy is a huge issue.
Describe in as much detail as you can the long and storied history of pockets as they pertain to American history and society and culture and like that.
Sure thing. So pockets were actually for both men and women. Back in the medieval times, they were worn over your shoulders, and they were kind of like gartered there, and they were large. They were very large, and they would kind of hang at your waist. For women, they would wear their pockets underneath their petticoats, and their petticoats would have a slit in them where you could reach in and grab the pockets. But the slit isn't the actual pockets. The pockets were kind of its own separate thing. You take them off. It was something that like your maid or your husband, it was an intimate thing. Not many people were going to see your actual pockets. And so the people who were seeing your pockets were very close to you. So what really changed the large gartered pockets that were slung over the shoulders was the French Revolution. The French Revolution was a revolution that it discouraged excess. Mm-hmm. And so women started, instead of wearing these big pockets, they were wearing muslin cotton dresses, and those are, more form-fitting and flowy. So they just don't have the room for those big pockets, and nobody really wants to wear them over that dress because they're so intimate. So women started carrying these tiny little bitty bags. They were called reticules. They could basically fit a little bitty sewing kit, and that was it. Which is a huge difference from the original big pockets, because those could have anything you would need at all on your person throughout the day. You could store food in there for later. They were just gigantic. So these reticules became very fashionable. Especially they were being worn by nobles, and people were catching on, and they wanted to be trendy, and these were a very trendy thing. So that's where we start getting the lesser women's pockets. Going forward, men's clothes were, tailored. If you were going to wear something, it was going to be made for you. Mm-hmm. And so they would have just all the pockets for all the things that the men needed. I think that in the 1940s, the average men's suit had something like 20 or something pockets. There would be a pocket for everything. There'd be a pocket for your train ticket, a pocket for your monocle, a pocket for everything in the world. And women were just stuck with these little bags. And it kept going. This was perpetrated by, as society changed, and women were going out in society, and they were going partying and dancing, and it was kind of like a statement to say, I don't have things that I need to carry around with me. I'm a partier. I'm going to the clubs, and I'm going to the gambling, and I'm gonna go do all these things, but I have the luxury of not needing keys or money. And so it kind of became a symbol of the luxury of not having to do too much. Just the luxury of just carefreeness. It didn't really matter. Is that actually empowering for women? I don't think so. It's a pretty long, ongoing debate. I just plainly don't think so. I think that that's just another way that men can have control and insert themselves into our lives. That's just a brand new avenue for it. But this trend has kept going on, and at this point now it's basically because handbags are like the lifeblood of like most designers' lines. So they're not inclined to put bigger pockets on women's clothing because they're making so much money with selling bags and like handbags. And also just pockets are hard to get onto clothes in general. It's really time consuming to get the pattern and the fit right. Whenever you're taking in bigger pockets, and usually whenever time and cost are constrained, it's like the first thing to go out of women's clothing whenever we're designing it. So these are kind of the main factors that are limiting our pocket sizes through history.
So in an ideal situation, perfect scenario, where would you say that the fashion industry can go from here to make female clothing more accommodating in terms of pockets?
It's really just a question of time and effort. I mean, in this society, we're all overworked and we're all pressed for time, and I understand that. But to take into account the luxury that you have whenever you can safely and securely carry your things on you, I mean, that should be worth the time and the effort, right? And I think it's also important that we just, as regular people, are demanding and letting people know that we want bigger pockets. It's very important for us, and it's very important to our right to privacy and autonomy and freedom.
Many people may not be aware of the legal issues surrounding pockets and the sort of laws and doctrines surrounding them. Would you care to expand on those?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're in Wyoming, Utah, or Montana, that's the other one, if you're carrying a bag, that actually limits your right to privacy. The Fourth Amendment protects our right to, against unreasonable searches, but the bag kind of creates a line where it's not unreasonable at that point. For example, there was a court case in 1999, Wyoming versus Houghton, in which there was a suspicious driver, and there was also a woman riding passenger who was suspicionless. Now, they have the right to search the driver, and they have the right to search the car. They do not have the right to search the suspicionless woman. However, her bag was in the back seat, and during the search of the car, the police also searched her bag. Now, this was an issue because there was paraphernalia, and the court case set the precedent that, no, a bag does not have the same rights as pockets. If she were able to carry her things on her person, it wouldn't have been searched at all. But that court case did definitely decide that wearing a bag severely limits your right to privacy, and having pockets would kind of create a more secure border to her right to privacy and just women's right to privacy in general.
That's fascinating. Do you have any other thoughts on pockets before we go?
Yeah, pockets are they're so important, and they're really a metaphor for so many different things. They're a metaphor for privilege really, because it's a construct. There's no reason for women's pockets to be smaller than men's. It's just made up. So yeah. It's a great kind of jumping off point to get into these larger, deeper systemic issues. Okay, great. Well, that's Erin, pocket expert, and thanks for stopping by today. Thank you. Fascinating. Appreciate it. Yeah.